What's up, y'all? A little faith, and welcome to episode 19 of the Fagnostic Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Hayes, and this is a very special episode following my experience as a juror for the second year in a row at the Out at the Movies International Film Festival in beautiful Winston-Salem, North Carolina. All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up. The other two jurors for the film categories we were assigned are here with me to discuss our view and critique of all the films that we watched. And y'all, we had some amazing and impactful submissions. But what's even more fascinating is that we all represent three very different walks in life, which means we all see art through very different lenses. These two filmmakers have taught me so much, and I'm very honored to share this episode with you. Megan Q. Daniels, she, her, is a multi-degreed filmmaker based in North Carolina. She's currently on the film festival circuit tour with her incredibly eye-opening film, Proper Pronouns, which y'all have got to see. It's screened on PBS and in multiple festivals. She uses filmmaking to address social justice issues in North Carolina and beyond. Her most recent project is still in production and addresses the negative impact on small businesses by COVID-19. Kat Scher, he, him, she, or love, loves, is a bi-trans film student studying to be a film director and sound designer. He loves LGBT media and strives to create representation he never saw growing up and continue the journey to normalize trans representation in front of and behind the camera while rejecting the gender binary. Welcome to the show, y'all. All right, Meg and Kat, I'm glad to have y'all here today. We talked about doing this once we started deliberations on our film festival reviews, and I just was so captivated by the conversation we were having, talking about watching these documentaries and shorts, and just hearing your perspective on them, because I watch it from a white cisgendered gay male. I almost said straight man. Oh my gosh. I almost just into myself. God.
Then I couldn't talk to you.
I know, right? Like, what are you doing here? Why are you trying to appropriate the word fagnostic? That's weird. No, but anyway, I'm really happy to have you all here. All of us doing our schedules has been difficult, but we did it. We're on different coasts. And that just 3 hours doesn't seem like a big difference, but y'all trying to coordinate between West Coast and East Coast time zones with creatives who have crazy schedules anyway, not just crazy schedules, but also crazy sleep schedules like myself. Like, this is morning for me. I've got my breakfast and my coffee. This is also like close to noon. But that's, that's how I roll. So anyway, I'm really happy you all are here.
Thanks for having us.
So every podcast starts off with two famous questions. The first being, are you a believer? Meg, you go first.
Let's see. I am a believer in evolution. I'm a believer in science. I'm a believer in good red wine. And I also have faith, but I don't subscribe to any particular religion. In fact, I'm going through, I went through a phase kind of where I left Catholicism, and I'm leaning towards being an atheist.
Congratulations.
Yes. So I have decided that that is a good fit for me.
No doubt.
I am she, hers.
Awesome. You beat me to the punch for my next question. So,
Yep.
She, hers. Awesome. So Kat, we'll let you do the two punch also. Are you a believer? And then identify your pronouns.
I guess I'd fall into believer in like the traditional sense. I was raised in the Christian church. However, I am trans and gay, and I really like swearing. So recently, I'm at a severe crossroads with my faith, and it's a very crippling place to be.
Yeah. Because I want my listeners to also know, like, locationally speaking, where you are, because that matters more than people realize culturally speaking. Your context. Where are you located?
Born and raised North Carolina, Raleigh area. Yeah.
So although Raleigh is progressive compared to the rest of the state itself is not. They're famous for the bathroom bills and a litany of other bigoted views just to pander to voters. And Meg, where are you located?
I'm outside Chapel Hill, but awesome. I'm born and raised upstate New Yorker who is really excited for tonight's Red Sox game.
Oh, God. Don't even get me started.
Go Sox.
So last night I was watching the Dodgers Braves game, but I come from a Braves fan base. And so I was really conflicted, like wearing my royal blue versus my navy blues. And I thought we were going to win it right there until the very end. But anyway, good luck for you tonight.
Yeah, thanks.
But I want to hit Kat real quick because it's really interesting what you just said about how you're at a crossroads with your faith, even after listing all these things that seem to counter what it means to be of faith. And I think that speaks to where you are as well. You know, like it's harder to separate from the spiritual foundation that is pretty cemented in most Southern states, that being of a Christian faith. So, I mean, you don't have to disclose your age, but you are younger than both of us.
Yes.
So, and you're in school as a filmmaker as well. Like, what is it like? I dealt with this 15 years ago. Is that right? Yeah, I dealt with this 15 years ago, but a lot's happened in 15 years, good and bad. So what is it like navigating faith and sexuality and gender identity where you are right now?
I think definitely I haven't been closeted like ever in my life, mostly just because I grew up in I'm the age where like I grew up on Tumblr, unfortunately, and that
isn't Tumblr just for porn?
Actually, in 2017 they banned porn, but Tumblr is like the avenue of like very, I guess, more what people would call cringy Gen Z like sexuality and gender.
Really?
Yeah, but it's kind of nice. It's kind of like, the more like conservative people go on Tumblr and they're like, all these people with blue hair identifying as non-binary, that's not real, even though like every other culture besides the Western culture has genders besides male and female. Correct.
I'm doing an episode soon with a two-spirit native, and I know nothing about it, and I'm so excited because, like you just said, I mean, even though that is like the OG Western culture, we don't really honor that in most aspects of life. But they do have, I think, 5 genders total, and they each reference or they each honor the scale that we all live on instead of the binary. Because as you know, this binary is what's killing the world. When did you come out as trans?
As trans, high school. I'd been questioning my gender since like 13. I had a lot of trans friends, and not in the like, my friends turned to be trans, but it was always just this like discomfort with my body and stuff. And I didn't have the words for it for a really long time. And like only recently, I really figured out what clicks for me. Like I identify as bigender, and my pronouns are he, him, and love loves, which is very special snowflake, but it's what makes me happy. And it's been very hard trying to like say my truth, essentially, of like, this is this weird thing and it's cringy or it's different, but like at the end of the day, it's what makes me happy beyond anything else. And so it's like,
you just said words. I don't even know what the definition. I mean, I feel like I know most things about sexuality and gender, but I mean, even I'm like making notes right now about words to research. This is, so have you seen those commercials, Meg? Also, we're about to talk about your Catholicism, because this is, and also your film Proper Pronouns. So you just hold tight.
I'm enjoying this. I'm learning.
But there's those commercials. I think it's Progressive Insurance about how not to become your parents. And y'all, they are so triggering and offensive to me, because I'm like, y'all are speaking to me right now. Like my favorite is the like they're talking about like it's the group of dads who are like noticing someone with blue hair or something, and the teacher of the lesson is like, don't look, don't make a comment, it's okay, they're happy. And I'm like, and then the others I think are like making noises when you get up and down because your whole body hurts. And that one really gets me, because it's like, I mean, even right now, like I drove back from Vegas a couple of days ago, and I got out of the car and I was like, oh my God, my back, I can't function from driving a Prius across the flat desert. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
You're
anyway,
screwed, buddy.
I know. Oh, and my absolute favorite though, and this is not me because I have better taste than this, but it's like, do you really need a sign to remind you to live, laugh, and love? And the woman's like, yes, I do. Oh my God, those commercials kill me. Literally. But so Meg, you have an interesting take as well, because and I don't want to like end you, but you are a heterosexual woman who made a film about called Proper Pronouns, about that explores the idea of gender identity and sex identity. Why?
That's the famous question.
Right.
Why? It started with my first year film. We had to do a short for graduate school. So we had to do a 10-minute
Where'd you go?
short. Wake Forest University. So I was going to do my short on a friend of mine whose daughter was transitioning rather than, you don't want to make, especially a white cisgender woman, you don't want to try to represent a community that you aren't a part of, right? Because a lot of films about trans folks are done by the LGBTQ community. So I was very hesitant to do this because, people would say, who the hell do you think you are having any right to make this film? But I just thought it was really important to share what it was like for a parent to go through this, because mom, Linda, was trying to mourn the death of her daughter,
right,
and respect that. As people see often, if they do have family members or friends that transition, oftentimes that's kind of the thought process. And that's how Dawn, in proper pronouns, her and Pam, Pam is her wife of 42 years still after transition. She had to mourn the death of her husband, but never left Dawn after she transitioned. So I wanted to film Linda and her daughter and them going through what they were going through, because mom is from California, very progressive, very supportive, but trying to help a daughter living in the South transition. And it was just not what she was used to culturally as far as acceptance goes.
Yeah.
So she's watching her daughter go through this at 16, already a turbulent time, and just trying to be the mother that she could be and protect her child, but not protect her child.
Yeah.
Let her child figure herself out. So long story short, they decided in November they didn't want to be a part of the project anymore. And we started in September, and I was pretty deep into it already. And I had done a lot of research, and I just was so angry by what aren't all filmmakers mad? We're angry, so we make social justice films.
That's why we're here, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
If we didn't have anger, y'all wouldn't have content. Right. So calm down.
My entire career as a filmmaker was born out of spite. So
yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So I was angry while I was watching them go through this, because being from upstate New York and having parents that got within 2 miles of Woodstock, I grew up, in a culture that you love everybody for whatever or whoever they are. And, that's why I got out of Catholicism, because love thy neighbor, and then you go out and you hate a trans person. So,
right. But you're sure going to make love to a little boy.
Right. So when I moved here, I really couldn't wrap my head around the fact that, people, when their children either transitioned or came out as part of the LGBTQ community, they were throwing their children out of the home and having nothing to do with them anymore. And that there's my anger, because I have family and I have friends that came out, and although it was very difficult at times, and there was a lot of there was distance, there was a lot of time, because they are hardcore Catholic families. It was something that they had to come to terms with, but they never stopped loving their children.
Sure.
Right.
Ever. So when I came here and I saw that was just, it blew my mind. So when Linda decided not to be a part of the project anymore, I was pretty far into it, and I had learned so much and seen so much in my 21 years here that I was not going to just give up and start a completely different story. So we found Liam, who is in the film. He was the first trans man to graduate from Wake Forest University in the divinity program.
What?
Wow.
Right. So you'll see that. You probably remember I show his master's degree on purpose. And with it being, they kind of made too big of a deal out of it, because, they almost wanted bragging rights, because they were a plantation. They're so still deeply rooted in the Baptist community, but they don't want to, they claim that they're not anymore. They've moved away. I will give them some credit, but
there's been some
honest.
progress.
Yeah, they have moved away. So
look, a baby step for a Baptist is still a pretty large leap. So I say that as a recovering Southern Baptist sissy. I can't take credit for that. That's a line from Del Shores, but that's
fabulous. You gotta love Del.
Yeah.
So then I decided to pursue the film further. Manny Robinson and I, my thesis partner, we met the other three. Liam introduced us to the other three because it was important. We felt, and he felt, that we have trans people of color because they have 3 strikes against them in the South, just living, right? Let alone take out the whole trans part of it. So we decided to have all 4 of them. We graduated with a cut of the film that we got our degrees, luckily, and it was, successful, but it wasn't where we wanted it to be. So I continued it from June 2019 to January 2020. And now it's doing well. I mean, it was just in its 8th film festival, thankfully.
Yay.
Yay. And it was, it was picked up by Southern Circuit and Canopy. So it's really I'm so thrilled for the ministers because it's now where it needs to be.
Yeah.
This wasn't about notoriety, and God knows we don't make money as doc filmmakers.
No.
We make these films.
None of us are on that HBO money yet.
No, never will be.
No, don't say that. I believe in the power of yet. The power of yet.
All right.
Yeah. That's I'm the trans issue is really, I think, where I'm focusing a lot of my efforts right now. Because I've and not to say that there's not still work to do for plain old gay people or plain old lesbians, but the community of those of us who have been able to overcome our trauma and our pains and whatever's, it is our responsibility to keep pushing forward for our other siblings within the rainbow. And I remember I used to say, and even recently, I think, trauma still, it follows you for a pretty long time, even in small doses you don't really realize. And even, I would say probably even as of 2 years ago, I would think about the trans community and just think to myself, well, thank God that's not my cross to bear, because I don't know if I could handle it. And I think even saying that diminishes the life quality of a trans person. And I really regret that was my train of thought, but I think it was just my own attempt to lessen the blow of being gay, because I still didn't trust that those around me could deal with that. You know what I mean? I can't, while I still cannot imagine what that is like, in my spiritual, deep dives, I really have I think I talked about this when we were doing our deliberations. I'm pretty convinced in myself that if there's a God, they are within all of us. And if that's the case, God is non-gender. There's no way to gender or sexualize God. Now, we can sexualize Jesus on that cross and that loincloth, but no, I mean,
if that even happened.
Right. No, but I love both of you just clutched your mouths and pearls.
I'm still too deep in religion to be like.
You'll get there, Kat. Don't you worry. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I don't even know where I was going with this. I just lost my train of thought.
That God being genderless.
Yes, and if that's the case, I have to believe, because our souls and our bodies are not. I mean, they are mutually exclusive. In my mind, are we not all non-binary to a point? If our souls are detached from our body, I will lose sleep over this, laying in bed thinking is my soul non-gender? Because I've always just thought I am man, I am he, but my soul, which carries on, there's no way that my soul is gendered. I can't believe, just because of what's hanging off my body. I don't know. Does that make sense?
It does. I always felt it the opposite way, almost that, you have your body and you have your soul, but I feel like your soul is you. And your soul is just vibing in this body. And so I think that's really interesting that you say that you think your soul is non-binary in a sense. Well,
and only because I feel like soul is the catalyst to the divine. Mm-hmm. And again, there's no way to gender the divine. So unless we're talking about the drag queen, God rest her soul. But yeah, so I don't know. That's I mean, conversations like that in my head are why this entire podcast exists. Just to like have a vehicle to throw out and hear other people's feedback on it.
I just think that's a really interesting way of thinking about it. And I really appreciate you planting that seed in my head.
Oh, good. I'm a seed planter, that's for sure, for better or for worse. But we were really fortunate to have some really great films to watch.
Yes.
And I think this is a good segue, speaking on trans issues, because, and I really hate that the jury, and I think actually the narrative jury selection.
I know there was at least one non-binary person there.
Yes, I think so too.
I have my program with me, I think.
Okay,
somewhere.
good. And we have Kat as well that can speak to this experience.
I'm the token trans, is what I'm saying.
Okay, and let me ask about that, because when I have guests on this show, I try to be really sensitive as to how I market them, and I never want someone to feel like they are the token subject, or they are. But in that, so much of your impact on the world has come from realizing your identity, and thank God having the confidence to embrace it and to speak on it. Does that affect you when you feel that you are the token trans person? Like what does that feel like?
It's mortifying in a lot of ways. It's like a spotlight's being cast on me. I'm happy with who I am, and I consider myself a mildly confident person. Like I'm very obnoxious gay. So I kind of have to be okay with like being loud and being confident. But there's just something that's so like focus when you're like the only trans person, especially as someone who's gender nonconforming. Yeah. It's like it's like there's a microscope on me. It's like we have all these normal people, you know, and then there's me, and it's very othering. Yes. I mean, it's always okay when like, you know, we have you lovely cis people who are very kind and nice, but it's still just this pervasive, almost us versus them kind of thing, where it's like, I'm sure you can understand that it was like when you're in a group of straight people and you're the only gay person, there's like this just feeling of like, yeah, we're all buddies, but there's this thing that makes us different. Yeah.
I never want someone to feel like I'm putting that label on them just for the sake of like exposure or my own ego or anything like that. So I hope that's not how I've ever come across to you, Kat.
No, absolutely not.
You can always call me out if it does. So let's get to the docs, because this is the film review episode. There were four documentary features, and by feature I mean full length. There's features and there's shorts. That's the generic breakdown in festivals. Sometimes you'll find like featurettes or mini features. There's other like subcategories sometimes, but here it's just not to praise the binary, but we only have two categories to work on. Feature and short, and they were Parkview, Workhorse Queen, Building Bridges, and Canela.
And P.S. Burn.
And P.S. Burn this. Oh my gosh, that's
the winner of our film festival.
I know. Oh my God, how embarrassing for me. No, I think I didn't have to take notes on that one because I was like, oh, this is yeah. Although Parkview really, really stood out, and that's the one I keep talking about. But yeah, P.S. Burn this letter. What's the title?
P.S. Burn this letter, please.
Thank you.
It's a bit of a mouthful.
It is, yes. But because I also think it reminds me there's a book or something called P.S. I Love You. And I always wanted that to come out of my mouth. Let's speak about that one last, just since it did win the festival. But let's do Parkview first. And Meg, you had a great conversation with them that I want you to talk about. I've only been corresponding through email, and they've agreed to do the podcast. We just haven't, there's even more people involved with that production on the other coast. So it's just been a shit show to schedule. But
can we swear in this?
Oh my God, yes.
Have you listened to a
podcast
before?
Yeah, no. Like
I didn't know this was like an explicit
No.
if I can say the fuck word.
Oh, please.
Oh,
yes.
fabulous.
Fuck. No. Even some of the Christian ministers I've had on will swear.
Oh,
and I'm
love
like,
that.
okay, if y'all can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
I actually didn't say GD until COVID. That was in my like Southern Baptist trauma. I still was afraid to say goddamn. And during COVID, the world went to shit. And now it's like every other word is GD, I feel like. You'll probably hear some in this episode.
Oh, mine is terrible because I'm still, it was just a phrase for my grandmother, went to church, Catholic church twice a week. And there was Jesus Christ, there was goddamn. It's just a phrase for us.
Yeah. I still would not, I will not even take the Lord's name in vain in front of my parents.
Oh,
so I will only say, oh my gosh, or oh my goodness. And because we're Southern, we'll say, oh my stars, oh my golly.
Yes.
But you will never hear me in front of my parents say, "Oh my God." I'll cuss in front of them, but I won't say, "Oh my God."
Remind me when I meet your parents, okay?
I will. I will. No, they're
Because I have
easy.
a hard time.
They're
Okay.
easy. They're great. This is on me. This is not on
Okay.
them. This is my
Okay.
issue. So Parkview. Let's talk about this. I loved it. I thought it was a story I'd never heard before, which was what made it infuriating, because this story speaks to privilege. It speaks to misogyny. It speaks to small town America, and it speaks to injustice. It hit everything for me in terms of being a LGBTQ film festival.
Well, I think it's such an important story. And I was
Yeah.
really drawn to it from the synopsis because it was local. And that's
Yeah.
always exciting. You know, it's
Yeah.
just like, oh, I know that place. That place is near
Yeah.
here. It's a very, very upsetting story. It's a very raw and real. And
I was going to say our mutual qualm with this movie
yes,
ended up being excused after we found out the reason for the qualm, and the qualm was the production quality.
it is so bad. It makes like 2008 YouTube film with a potato look like 4K.
Well, and what we learned, the reason is because the footage was actually from that time.
Mm-hmm.
This is a new film that used entirely original footage from the time when it happened, and the filmmaker kept the footage and put it together for this doc feature. And Megan, you can speak more to that because you had an in-person conversation. My listeners, I think, know that I had travel snafus the day of and could not make it to the festival after being stuck on a plane and failed liftoff attempts, and it was awful. But anyway, that's a privilege problem. So what was his answer? Because he got this response a lot about the production quality being questionable.
Yeah, that was something that, because he's not a filmmaker,
Right?
and he readily admits it.
He's a social worker, right?
He's a social worker,
and a straight white married social worker.
Correct.
Telling a story about a murdered lesbian.
Correct. And it was really interesting because he and I had that conversation because I told him, just in case, I said, be ready for who do you think you are to step in as a white cis married man to make a story about Talana. It's going to come. It's going to happen. And you have to be ready because you're filming it not only as someone who was extremely bothered by this, but you're filming it from a social worker's viewpoint who doesn't have a ton of experience in the filmmaking industry. And I applauded him. I said, you're brave. I said, because although there's so many great, wonderful people that come together at these film festivals, it can be brutal when it comes to critique.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's productive critique. You know, I have not run into anybody snobby but I also haven't been in, any huge film festivals like Sundance or Full Frame where they could tear me apart.
Even Outfest in LA. I mean, that's like the premier LGBTQ festival.
Yeah, I didn't get into that one. I submitted.
Me neither. So that's I
would have been scared to death if I had to do a Q&A there. I would have been scared to death.
Same, because they come with claws.
Right. So, I told him, I said, I applaud you. And he was really great with the feedback. And when I found out about the fact that when he shot it, the technology was not there.
Yep.
I think he did a great job telling the story. And, the story for me focused on the fact that they didn't put at the forefront what had happened and the actual reason behind her death. Mm-hmm. They spotlighted the killer. That's what the news media did.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And just so everyone knows, the killer was a Christian, a man of faith. I mean, allegedly, and found this lesbian's lifestyle so offensive that he had to murder her, and not just murder her, but brutally, literally rip her bowels out of her body. They showed sketches that were used in the courtroom of her intestines hanging out of her rear end because of his brutal attack on her. I can't get the images out of my head. And I don't know. I mean, it just shook me. This movie fucking shook me.
And that's why it was so good. And
yes.
He, it's because that they meaning the news media, law enforcement, they didn't address the actual reason why this happened.
Yeah.
Right.
They just highlighted and, like I said, spotlighted the killer.
Yep.
And that's what I think Tab did a great job doing, is he brought that to the forefront.
Yeah. Yep.
By interviewing so many people. I told him, I said, I loved what you were going after. I think it falls short just because of, quality, but he also had a lot of talking heads. And I said, that's one thing that possibly it would have been more successful in the podcast world, in the podcast industry. And he took the feedback very well. But I told him that I, think the story is extremely important, and I applauded him.
Yeah, it was, I don't know if it's streaming anywhere yet. I think all film festivals have digital options for tickets these days.
Yeah.
If you find this title, it's upsetting, but who doesn't watch like Dateline in 48 hours before bed every night? So we're used to like upsetting our minds, I feel like. But this is something, it's a really important story because it does speak to how the media treats marginalized victims. God, it pissed me off. Let's move on to a happier film, Workhorse Queen. and not that this has its own trauma as well. Mrs. Kasha Davis is the star of this film.
You interviewed her, right?
I did. And
how did that go? Yeah, I want to hear about that later.
And not only interview, we've become friends. And like, we'll oh my gosh. No, she is such a light. And so she was in season 7 of RuPaul's Drag Race. And she was labeled as like the old queen, like the old fashioned queen. She's America's housewife. Her catchphrase was, there's always time for a cocktail. They've become sober since Drag Race, which this film speaks heavily to. What it really, because I'm a huge Drag Race fan, and I'm but also a new Drag Race fan. My best friend Brittany got me turned on to it a couple years ago, and now I've seen like every season, every country, multiple times. And I'm telling her like, "Oh, did you see this?" And she's like, "What have I done?" But they it really spoke to the idea of fame and success as it relates to being a named presence, and they really thought that after Drag Race they would be elevating. They would be soaring into the ether with the other drag queens of fame and tours and merch and, just a huge popularity. And it wasn't the same for her. It's not that she crashed and burned by any means, but it wasn't, some of the queens were getting their own TV shows and starring in movies. And it just wasn't that for her. But what she realized is that's just not her plot. She has this impact in Rochester, New York, which apparently has a sick drag scene. And I really want to experience it someday, but like only in seasonal temperatures because it sounds cold up there. You're from that area. You know New York winters.
Don't ever go if it's not July.
Don't you worry. No, there better be a good paycheck involved. But yeah, she does this story time with the kids at the library there called Imagination Station. And what was so beautiful to me, and Kat, I'd be interested in your take on this as well, because for me, seeing a drag queen, a man in makeup and a dress, be so normalized and welcomed to a cisgender family with their kids, like being read a story by a drag queen. I'm like, what world is this? Like that would never happen when I was growing up. And the kids are just like, they're kind of caricaturized, I guess, like, with this concept. But the kids love her and the parents love her. And I was almost emotional watching it because it was like, oh my God, like we're normal. We're okay.
I mean, I don't want to jump ahead too much, but like,
no, please.
Really made me think about P.S. Burn This Letter, Please, which is also about drag queens, but it's about like pre-Stonewall, right? Yeah. It was like pre-Stonewall era, like drag queens and like the fraught experiences and how, tumultuous it was to be like that. And so it was like this, like I watched P.S. Burn This Letter. I think I watched that before I watched Workhorse Queen.
Okay.
So I basically started from the bottom. Now we're here.
Right.
Of like seeing like the change between the transition between what it was like for drag queens back then who were like criminalized and
oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah. And then going and seeing Workhorse Queen and seeing, a drag queen and she's just reading to kids. And it's like, oh my God.
It was precious. And that film is screening they got into a lot of festivals.
Yeah. It's a good film. It's fun.
The filmmaker is Angela. Oh, fuck me. I think it's Angela Walsh. I hope I got
Do you
that
want me to
right.
Google it?
Yeah, go. Yeah, do that. But she, and I think they identify as she. So if I'm, but I'll use they just to be safe. They are a professor. Am I just making everything up in my head right now? I think they're a professor at Carnegie. I hope that I'm telling the truth on this. I should have.
Angela Washko and she, her.
She, her. Thank you. Okay. Don't
Say
you love
that
that we?
name so that when you cut it, you have it right.
I know.
Mhm.
Yes. Well, I think. Well, I don't often cut my mistakes because I want it to show that like there is room for mistake. It's a subtle thing. Yeah, but I think that that's where a lot of our cancel culture is fucking up right now, is that we don't allow and like some people need to be canceled. Let's be honest. But I have grown, I hope, so much in the past few years. And I hope that people, when I get my series or my notoriety, I hope that people recognize that things I've said in the past, I have grown from that. So that's my reason for leaving my fuck ups in this podcast.
I think it's great. I just wanted.
I know, no, but yeah, Angela Washko. If you can find this film, it's such an enjoyable watch, especially from when you're not critiquing films. And if you just saw this in the theater, I mean, holy cow, it's just fun. It's inspiring. The story of sobriety, of survival, they speak about their marriage being in turmoil because of the alcoholism, and just the impact that we all have the ability to achieve. That's what I took away from it, is that we, in our context, in our communities, we can be that voice. We can progress our environment. And little by little, if we each do it in our pockets, we're going to see fruit in the years ahead. I know it.
What I really liked is how cutthroat it was. And in the drag culture, you have to get to Drag Race to be legitimate.
Yep.
That was one thing that blew my. It is very sad because one of the other characters, she tried out 12 times.
Something like that.
I think it was Angie,
crazy.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. And, it just, I really had no idea how if you don't get to Drag Race or you audition 12 times, then, they kind of poo-poo each other. And that shocked me. I was like, oh my God.
Well, and it speaks to that idea of like the separation between passion and purpose. Because a lot of these queens will like in the film talked about how when they were not getting on, it's like, do I even need to keep pursuing drag as my art form? And that's sad because like, we do equate success with our art. And there's no way to change that, but we do have to recognize that in order to keep pursuing our art if we're not getting the quote unquote success in which we thought we were going to.
And I don't like that the media determines that.
Yeah.
A TV show determines the validity of one's success.
Yep.
As, and that comes back in so many contexts and happens in so many cases, but, they're already trying to validate their art.
Yeah.
And then, the media, of course, we come back to it time and time again, that the media is validating who they are as artists. And, if they are out and they are performing and they are trying to make a living, now you've got this bar that has been set by Drag Race, it's just like, really?
It's almost a blessing and a curse in a way. Like it helped normalize like drag.
Yes,
and it's like now it's just this fun thing. But it's also just like now it's like you're only good enough if you get on this show.
Yeah. Yep. It's exactly. But yeah, y'all go watch this. It's such a fun film. Now let's talk about building bridges.
Oh, I have a hot take.
Yeah, I think we all do. This film is wonderfully produced. It is. The production quality is.
Martin Scorsese, I think, was one of the producers too.
Yeah. I mean, this is a legit documentary feature. Really well done. I wrote so most films I took extensive notes on. I wrote 3 words for this. I don't think I told y'all this when we talked about it originally.
Oh my God.
I wrote beautiful, redemptive, boring.
Ooh.
And by boring, I mean, I'm so fucking tired of advocating for the unadvocatable. Like, why are we still trying to save Catholicism? Why? Somebody tell me.
I think the biggest thing for me, though, that goes along with that is that this is a really, really like, it reminds me a lot of a narrative, and that there is a clear protagonist and there's a clear antagonist. And my God, they could not have gotten the most unlikable douchebaggy guy for the antagonist. Like he you just want to punch him every time his face shows up on screen. So it's very well done.
Yeah, so there's a Catholic priest in this film, and he basically is just trying to save Catholicism by and he's a straight guy, but he's trying to educate and inform his congregations to welcome acceptance and welcome tolerance. And God bless him for that. Like, I mean, and when I say God bless him, it's just a colloquialism of like, I don't really like, it's not a prayer for like the divine to bless someone's efforts. I mean, whatever. But that's just something to say, God bless him. But he's really doing, here's another one, the Lord's work. And that's tough.
Terrible.
I know. I mean, because even though he's the protagonist of this film, in his denomination, he's actually the antagonist. He is going up to bat against his entire faith by saying, we are commanded to love everyone, no matter what. But the antagonist of the film is a supposed former gay. If you watch the film, I don't know how former it is, but anyway, but it's, why are we cheering for someone who stays apart? And that's a question I ask a lot of my guests on this show too. Like, you're fighting against extreme Judaism. You're fighting against extreme Christianity, extreme Islam. Why stick around? Why not find another faith system that honors who you are? Oh, Kat, tell me. Here's your hot take.
This is my whole thing. This is my whole, this is a thing I lie awake thinking about at night. My fear. So I was raised Christian family. However, my dad's side of the family is Jewish. And so I have a healthy, I'm really connected to my Jewish heritage and all that. But my thing is, I'm so scared that I'm looking for the thing that's going to make me feel better about myself. And by doing so, I'm just refusing the truth, I'm looking for what's going to make me happy, but the truth is the truth and it's going to hurt, but it's the right thing. And I'm just kind of I'm going away because I just want to feel better about myself. And it's I could go, I don't know, jump religions or something, but I would just feel oh my God, what if I'm fucking myself over? Because I'm looking for what appeases me and what makes me feel good about who I am. But
that's the trauma of growing up in an extreme religion like Christianity. I have a great relationship with my parents, and I love their faith. Their faith has gotten them through some of the hardest times in our lives. But there's a bit of resentment of why did you make me grow up this way? Why did you bring me up in a faith system and a belief practice that I didn't choose? And so even if I claim agnosticism or atheism, or even if I return to a faith system, I can't see raising my kid in a way where they are forced to view eternity the way that I do. Mm-hmm. It just seems, I don't want to say abusive, but that scares me. So Kat, I'm so glad you said that, because that's a lot of people's issue when they are, after coming out to themselves and appreciating who they are. It's that question of, but what if I'm wrong? Mm-hmm. And that's a fucked up thing to have to lay awake with. And I'm so sorry that you do. I get it. I've been there. And not to say that I still don't have those nights. My hope for you is that you start seeing the divine in clues that show you are living the right way on the right path.
Yeah.
And I think because I know you a little bit, it's just a process, and it's going to allow you to tell stories later on about, my entire career is based on this trauma, this issue, this podcast, my short film Cognitive, everything's about what I've gone through with trying to grapple with that. And so thank you for being honest and vulnerable with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Meg, what's your take on this? Because you grew up Catholic.
I did. And I think, for me, I really enjoyed the film for multiple reasons. One, just like you said, James Martin is going up against everything that he was taught. Yep. As a priest and what he's supposed to represent. But he's very forward thinking, and to find out some of the things that he brought to light, the 2016 shooting, gay club shooting, the bishops didn't stand with the victims, and he's bringing those things to light, and the filmmakers brought those things to light. I didn't know many of these things. So I like that he's both protagonist for the film, but he's also the antagonist to religion.
Yep.
And I feel that the only way that we're going to make strides in that is if people poke holes. But I also really liked, I loved the fact that they brought in Voris, the antagonist. And I know we had that deep conversation about them because you guys were right. That was, now I thought, Kat, I changed your mind at least a little bit in that last conversation, because
I remember
he was so important to the film because it shows, I mean, the whole thing that blew my mind was that he was gay. Okay, let's talk about the fact that you don't become gay.
Right, right.
You are always, supposedly, from what I have been taught, you are born gay, you're born in the wrong body, etc. Right? So the fact that he is so insecure in who he is as a person, he was, he prayed away gay.
Well, he didn't pray away pruning those eyebrows, and not to say that straight men can't have pretty eyebrows, but I think if you're trying to pray that connotation about yourself away that hard, you might do some, some less primping and some worse shopping. I don't know.
Yeah. I thought it's really disheartening to know that someone like him seems to, for me, because he was shunned for being gay, he is now spending his life, his path, trying to do everything he can to make James Martin look like this horrific person because he's so threatened by him.
Yep.
Voris is just so threatened by that because he lived both lives, supposedly.
Right.
One is a gay man and now one is a straight, hardcore Christian, cult leader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that is just, it's a really great context.
And that they got him.
And that he was, God, we never get those people.
No,
I was so jealous.
That's what you did for me in this take, Megan, is that I didn't think about that watching it, but you talked about how, as documentary storytellers, to get the antagonist to show up and to speak, that's huge.
In that sense, everybody hates him in the film. And I think, damn, it's about time. If you're going to be this vocal and somebody approaches you, stand up for yourself, because we're trying to give people a chance to justify themselves. We as viewers don't have to like it. Of course, I hate everything he stands for. Absolutely. But I thought he was a really, really important aspect or asset to this film, because then I would have thought it was somewhat boring without him.
Yeah. He's the villain, and you can't tell a story without a villain.
We never get the villain. We never get the hardcore villain like him.
Well, we do in this film. So what you can, this I'm sure is going to be streaming everywhere because it's got so much money behind it. But yeah, Kat, what were you going to say about it?
Two things really, really quick. One, I just wanted to commend James Martin because I realized after we talked that I had heard of him before, but previously he appeared on Fox News a couple of years ago for a segment that they did about how Christmas is being erased. One of those bullshit Christianity is being persecuted. Everyone hates us. They're trying to erase Christmas things. And they brought him on to talk about it as a priest. And he was like, I don't care. His issue was like the right issue. He was like, I'm more irritated with the consumerism in Christmas and the way that we're trying to market it. But these people are like the kind of people who are like, Amazon doesn't call it a Christmas list anymore. My religion is threatened, kind of thing. So like, I realized that I knew him. And I was like, oh, he's actually like a guy who's like, he doesn't have just this one issue. He just genuinely seems like a great guy who like has like, I guess the modern ideals, but is also just like, the issues that the conservative Christians that have the most news media, those issues are stupid. Let's talk about the actual issues,
right?
Like the corruption of consumerism in what's supposed to be a religious holiday, and let's stop making gay people feel like they have to die because of religion. And then the other thing I just wanted to say is my main issue with the film is that it really splits the protagonist, the antagonist time 50-50. And that's my problem of just like, you don't need 50-50. like, it was just, there was like a lot of whiplash. Like we would cut from people talking from the Pulse massacre, and then we would cut to this asshole just talking about how his dog watches Fox News. And it was just
right.
a lot
but
of
look at how fired you're fired up about it. And that's a great film.
I didn't like it. It made me, I couldn't focus on the message that James Martin was trying to do. All I could think about was how much I hated this guy and I hated the editing.
Well, it kind of reminds me of what you spoke to a little bit ago, Kat, in that, you know, you'll lay awake at night thinking like, but what if I'm fucking myself over? You've got your own whiplash going on inside. Oh, yeah. So I wonder if that was triggering, and not to project that on you, but I wonder if that was triggering to
it absolutely was.
See the visual of what you're experiencing already.
It was just rough. I was just upset because I didn't realize there was going to be an antagonist. Honestly, like I was enjoying the film fine until he showed up. And then he just kept showing up and I went, shut up. Like
we get it.
We get it. You suck.
Yeah, right. Canela, I also really loved. I thought it could have been either a featurette or a short film. There was a lot of like, I loved getting to know the family of the feature of this film, which is a trans person. And what this film did do for me was educate me in how non-trans people are owning the narrative of trans people. In that if I learn that someone is trans, used to be my thought was, okay, when is your surgery? When is when are you going to have, your top surgery, your bottom surgery?
Woof.
And that I know. And I hate that but I still like, I have to have grace for myself and my own involvement. But like, I still was like, oh my God, like this isn't about me. This isn't about my acceptance of a trans person's choices. They don't have to have surgery. And so in this film, we never find out if they end up having the surgery. And I was so mad, but then I was mad at myself for being like, but it's not my fucking business. You know what I mean? Like, this is their life, their experience. You shouldn't have to feel the need. And one of the short films that I loved, The Gray Area, which won Best Short, spoke to this, is that you shouldn't feel the need to prove your transness by what society is telling you to do, like wearing a dress or having boobs. That doesn't make you trans.
Yeah.
And so between that and The Gray Area, I mean, being a juror this year, I felt like I have just earned a college degree, honestly, because of stuff like what these films address. What did y'all think of Canela?
It was really, really nice.
Yeah.
I found it a bit boring. It's a very simple film, which is fine. I think we need more simple films. Not everything has to be a spectacle with Martin Scorsese as a producer and all that. I relate to it a lot. I am a pre-everything non-binary, gender non-conforming trans guy. And I grapple with the medical side of transitioning constantly, for health reasons, for personal reasons, for all, money reasons, all that kind of stuff. And so it's always nice to see like a focus on that, because a lot of times it's just one of those things, like you said, that it's just expected.
Yeah.
And I think it's also really important to keep having these conversations, because being trans doesn't depend on how many surgeries you've had or how long you've been in the closet or all these arbitrary things. You're trans if you say you are, and we respect that. And just
you don't have anything to prove to me.
I don't have to prove anything, but it's also, for me at least, the biggest thing that I grapple with is the way that cis society views me versus the way that I see myself. For a lot of times I can look in the mirror, and there are days when it happens, there are days when it doesn't, but I can look at my chest, and I can be like, that's a man's chest, even though it would be coded as female. But I know if it's not like I can go out walking topless in society because of the way that people view it. And so it's always really interesting to see trans people's struggles and grapples with surgery, because especially with bottom surgery, it's one of those things where it's very personal. It's not like you're going to walk out every day and show everyone your genitalia, as much as conservative people wish you would when entering a bathroom. But it's one of those things where it's like, it's so nice to have just like, it's a little bit boring because it's very interpersonal. It's just one person's kind of stream of consciousness, but it's also an important stream of consciousness to be had. Yeah.
Meg, you had a great take on this as well that I had not thought about. A lot of documentaries rely on interviews, rely on getting that perspective, but this was entirely shot as a fly on the wall. Yeah. I mean, there were no interviews. I think there was one that seemed like as it was a doctor's appointment with the doctor that seemed, like, and not to say contrived in a bad way, but like documentaries, you have to contrive a story in order to do it typically. This was all just footage. It was fast. And I didn't think about that. And realizing that, it's like, oh my God, like that's an effort in and of itself.
It's very difficult because you have to tell a story without a lot of backstory, because the backstory has to evolve throughout the film without somebody telling it. Yeah. And I really admire filmmakers that are able to do that. And although I agree it was a little long, I really think that the filmmakers did a great job allowing the story to come to fruition with all the other people in her life. And so it was something, she had her boys in there and they had a meal together and they talked about the surgery, and then we are in the doctor's office talking about the surgery. And that's very difficult because, like I said, to bring a story from start to finish without any on-camera interviews of somebody, the participant, maybe other people that are participating on the protagonist's behalf, a lot of times they have to tell the story and offer context, which of footage. And then we have obviously cutaways and we have B-roll and, we didn't have any of that. And I really appreciated the film for that purpose. And I really like that we don't know whether or not she had surgery. It's none of our business.
It's none of our business.
None of our business.
And I just thought that was a fabulous ending.
Yeah.
And, it just, I'm glad I don't know. Yeah. I'm glad I don't know. I'm glad they kept that from me because the whole story was grappling with sense of self, definition of humanity, what, community, what society wants as far as titles go and body parts go. And so I, just having heard a lot of stories, especially because of proper pronouns, it's none of our business. Yeah. And unless they want to share that, you don't ask those questions. You have absolutely no right to ask those questions.
Yep. And it's not to throw it back to Drag Race, but there was a contestant a couple of seasons ago, Gottmik, who really educated the audience with the similar concept of just because you transition doesn't mean that you're going to meet society's expectations for the gender to which you're transitioning.
No, because it's not a legit gender.
Right.
You decided that you're another gender.
Right.
That's what society thinks.
Yep.
So you're not going to win either way.
No.
I know.
Unless you pass.
Yeah.
Or you're stealth.
Or you're right. I mean, that's the thing is they can't win with identity.
Yeah.
They have to win with humanity. And that was one of the biggest things for me for making proper pronouns.
Yeah. There was just with pronouns too. I meant to talk about this when we spoke about Workhorse Queen with Angela. When I was asking what her pronouns were, a straight friend of mine recently asked, like, "What's your take?" Because I know that I try to evolve as much as I can as a cisgendered male. But they were asking what my take was on identifying our pronouns, like in the closing of emails and that kind of thing. And when we talked about when you said that Angela does identify as she and her, and you found that on the website. My thought was like, oh my God, don't you love that we live in a place or live in a time where that's easily accessible? Like we can see how people identify. And I used to be a little bugged. Like I used to view it as like a, oh, okay, I get it. You're so woke to have your pronouns in your closing. But as I have evolved, and this is even over the past several months, as I have tried to grow, I recognize how important it is because your pronouns may not reflect how I view your pronoun to represent. Mm-hmm. So just because you say you're a woman, you may not wear dresses and have long hair. And so I actually do think that it's really important to have I have mine in my clothing, my clothing, it gets what I'm trying to talk about right now. No, in my closings, in my social media, because I do think I present clearly as a male. I want that to create the space where people feel the need to not assume. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. That's 100%. Like, it's just normalization.
Let's jump to P.S. I love you then. See, I did it. Oh my gosh. P.S. burn this letter, please. Let's jump to, because that one, it is a fucking beautiful movie. It's a documentary, but it incorporates voiceovers, scenes, the animation. It is so well done. I love learning about our history. And when I say queer people's history, I mean, like, I use the word queer to capture every letter of the rainbow, LGBTQIA+. But I love learning about queer history, not to shame younger generations, but the reality is so progressive for some people that there's no need to like look back. But, and as we're learning now, we have to study history in order to not repeat it. But I just loved these closeted Hollywood figures, speak about their private lives, of going to the club and like, dressing in drag. And it was just so, so well done.
So well done. And it's just ironic that it was somebody in the media that they were writing to.
I know.
We just sat here and talked about how the media just demoralizes and decimates people as human beings, or just, reroutes the topic into just a rabbit hole. But and it was just the fact that those letters existed and the fact that they got their hands on them, and somebody was willing and willing to let those be shared in a documentary. I mean, those were so private that they could have been kept from us. And man, the world is going to be a different place because of that film.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
For sure.
Yep.
And I thought it was just so elegant. And like you said, the use of the animation and the fact that they dedicated fonts to each person so that we knew before they even signed the letter. Once you got into it, we knew who was writing the letter. And, that's just so creative.
I laughed. I cried.
It was the last line of the movie for me. That last line, because in docs, you always want that aha moment where like all the pieces like come to, you're like, oh, and it's that. And I'm not going to give it away, but the last line of this movie was like, I just got chills thinking about it. It was like, oh my God, it was just so magical. It was so good. Let's jump to shorts now and just do a lightning round on takes of the shorts. Let's do narratives first. Hangry is a really greatly produced short film by filmmaker Tennessee Martin, who I actually go to church with here in Los Angeles.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. And I didn't realize that until after, and I watched it again and saw the credits and was just doing and I was like, why do I know that name? Oh my God, I met you at church. And by church,
That's crazy.
Hollywood United Methodist, very liberal, very progressive. And they welcome my agnosticism. Hangry was so great. I just did not, unless you told me that the character was lesbian, I would not have known. And so I didn't understand why this was in a queer film festival, because there was no element of sexuality or gender.
I mean, I think that sometimes they just accept like friends at the festival too. And that might've been it, but it definitely was, threw me for a loop. I was like, where's the thing I was expecting?
And a crazy cast. I mean, like both those actors, like, I mean, and their names are escaping right now, but like they're in everything. Like they work. I don't know how she got those. I don't know how Tennessee identifies, but I don't know how Tennessee got those. I mean, unless they're just in their network, but like casting alone was just like through the roof.
I was going to say that now that I think about it, that's kind of interesting because we talk about how we can't assume anything. So how do we know?
Meg Q Daniels calling me out on my own podcast. Cool.
Sorry.
No, please.
You can edit that out.
I want this shit. That's the content I live for.
But it just dawned on me, like, because I thought the same thing, and I'm like, well, shit, I didn't know whether or not she was lesbian, but is that my business?
I know. God, what a hypocrite I am. This is fantastic.
I'm not calling you a hypocrite. I'm calling myself I said the same thing. Like the storyline, but how is it LGBTQ?
Yeah.
Right there in my notes.
See, even as we're talking, we're like,
this conversation since it started at 2:00, it's like, okay, well, I got to throw that sentence out the fucking window because it shouldn't matter. It's it's about storyline, it's about content, and do we need that in your face in order for it to be? I didn't choose it. I didn't like it. I liked the storyline, but it wasn't my cup of tea.
That's fine.
Yeah,
the acting for me wasn't there.
Okay, well, let's jump to The Good Son. Was really well done. you know, I thought the writing was a little questionable in terms of it being, I like dirty writing, messy writing, and this was very clean writing. And by clean writing, I mean, like, there's not a lot of overlap. It's like very like, you know, question, answer, statement. But my biggest problem with this, and I, even after talking to Rex, I still feel this way, even though the actor was an adult, they were playing a minor, and this minor was very sexualized. And I had a very hard time with that. To the point where I could not even focus on the film because of how although the actor is over 18, the character is not. Isn't. And I really just felt like I was being forced to be a creeper by seeing this, you know, beautiful body and then sexualizing, which is on me, but it's also on the filmmaker.
Mm-hmm. When we talked about it the first time, I brought up Call Me by Your Name because that's very similar in how that's, you know, a gay relationship with a, you know,
and I had the same problem with that one. Yeah.
I think, and we talked about this and how like, it's cool that we have, like, I know these stories exist, but it's like, it doesn't do well. You know, there's already a stigma in the gay community that all gay guys are just, you know, pedophile perverts.
Yep.
And making stuff like this doesn't exactly help us, even though it's like, it's not our job, I guess, to make people accept us. It doesn't do well when it's like, let's have a film. Oh, groundbreaking. A gay guy who's underage, who sleeps around. Wow, shocking. I've never heard that one before.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get to brown eyes, light skin, brown hair.
I love the simplicity of it.
Yeah.
I thought the simplicity was elegant. You know, the story, the cinematography is wonderful. Great incorporation of the political components. The score was beautiful. It just fell short in the storyline for me.
Yep. Yeah.
But I thought everything else was really great.
Agreed. Kat?
Same thing, really.
Cool.
I don't have anything more to add.
Let's go to Scouts.
I wanted more from this so badly.
The context that they discuss is so fucking needed. And it's basically someone coming out as non-binary, but I almost couldn't focus on it because of the writing and the acting.
It was
I hate to be so hard on it, but like, it was almost like a bad SNL skit.
I saw it as a PSA.
Yes.
Like I really thought it was a PSA commercial.
And not just in the acting and the writing, but like in the saturation of the color. And like, it was just
the camera angles.
Cringy.
So cringy.
Yeah.
I was so excited for it. I read the synopsis and I was like, fuck yes, this sounds great. And then I watched it and I was like, fuck no.
Yep.
I couldn't get through it.
It was a letdown based on the synopsis.
Yeah. Heat Wave. This was a very fluff piece to me. Very, very white. And these are Tish people. Like, Tish, what are you doing over there in New York City? There's no excuse. And there are stories told where like someone clearly has to be Caucasian because of, you know, whatever their life experience is. Tish, in my mind, would be leading the way with diversifying casting. There was no reason that they should not and could not have had people of color in this film, I thought. It was well acted, I thought, well shot, but just kind of meh. One of the things that the three of us noticed in our being selected as jurors was the lack of diversity. And just so everyone knows, we are very aware of that. And it really hit us. And we actually brought that to the people that selected us, and that there needs to be a much greater number of people of color who can speak to their experiences watching these films. It was really, it's an honor for us to all like be selected to give our take on films. But we know that there's still a lot of work to do. They welcomed our need to bring in more people to the fold. So I just want to get that out of the way. I hope that I approached that as sensitively as possible. It really did. Like we talked about that. It's like, this is not okay. We have to talk about this. So anyway, what about From A to Q? I thought it felt like a pilot. It was very sweet. My biggest thing was, what fucking money do you have that you can get T-Swift?
That's the exact thought I had. I was like holy shit.
Who is funding this short film and who's clearing the music? Jesus Christ.
I mean, as someone who loves Taylor Swift with all of my heart, I loved it. But I was like, this it just, a lot of the other films that we've seen are kind of, for lack of a better word, scrappy in a way, even the ones that have a bigger budget, but it feels a little bit more like, especially with the shorts, where it's like, it feels a lot more like it's just a group of filmmakers with a story to tell and not like $1 million. But then you got Taylor Swift, and it also just, again, it felt like a pilot. It felt like a pilot in that the acting was a little stilted and a little bit like.
I felt like they were depending on the success of the film to be because of Taylor Swift, because I didn't like anything about this film.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It just did nothing for me.
The soundtrack was great.
Yeah.
Doesn't fix it.
And then the narrative short that won was Frankie. And we all agreed on that one. Frankie. That was that's the AA circle. I actually did feel like it was a little contrived in story, just being like for them to have found the setting of the AA circle. But the camera work alone sold me on this one. It is so hard to cut circular groups, and a master, and never make the audience question where they're looking and who they're looking at. And I thought that was brilliant. Really good acting, really clever story. What y'all think?
It's original. I liked it.
Yeah.
Very original. The music tension was very well done.
Sound design.
The sound design was excellent. Like you said, the acting was great. I love the ending. So this was a good one for me.
Yep. Which is why it won short narrative. So the docs. So Eliza Smiles, I thought it was super cute. It didn't wow me. I loved Eliza, the person featured there, but it just felt like an expose to me. Yeah, it felt like a filmed magazine article.
I thought it was tastefully done. It could have been really raunchy. And I thought it was very tastefully done.
Yeah, because this is a conversation that's also needed about normalizing whether it be actual sex work or whether it be using your body to
express.
in whatever way you want. Yeah, exactly, to express in whatever way you want to. And there was just what I loved also is that Eliza didn't have like a chip on her shoulder about it. And not to say that I expected that or assumed that, but it was such a gracious, humble storytelling about an experience that I'm not familiar with. It didn't feel like shoved down my throat.
For sure.
No historical precedents.
It was heady. I wanted more.
Yeah, it was. I was pretty confused by it, to be honest.
I agree.
11 weeks. I fucking loved. Heartbreaking. Sometimes artists are blamed for exploiting situations. And this film did, and I don't mean to have a negative connotation on the word exploit, but this film did exploit a terrible life experience that was happening in one of the partners. These were two women married for years and years. It was really a raw take on the final days of life between lovers. It was heartbreaking. I actually wrote down fucking art as my takeaway from it. God bless.
I didn't want it to win because it made me so sad. Like, it was very, very good. It was definitely in like top 3 at least, but I was just like, I cannot make this win because I will cry forever and ever.
Yep.
There was just so much compassion in the film. So, I don't know if you're right in the sense of, I don't think the negative connotation of exploiting this particular situation, there is exploitation to it, but it was, and I'm not really coming up with a good explanation.
I know what you mean, but it was permissive. I mean, it wasn't like
still beautiful,
right? Nobody was exploited. This was two people but the situation was like, oh my God, it's heartbreaking. And it also just addresses something none of us want to think about: losing a loved one.
Right.
And really being present firsthand for it. Do I qualify for love? This is the second to last doc we're going to discuss as relates to the shorts. We disagreed on this one. I had a very different view of this film than y'all did. I remember.
Remind me your take first.
Gladly. So this was a one person short film. Shot in very saturated black and white on a subject matter that's very important. it's very painful in the story. In what the story is about. It was advertised as only costing $28 to produce, which I thought was $27 more than I expected. I love this person. I love them telling their story. Where I did not forgive was in the reading of the lines throughout, and the cuts. I thought it was. I had a hard time believing what they were saying because I could see them reading the lines that they were delivering. And that really struck a chord with me. You can do a lot more for $28, in my opinion. And I'll pay you double if you can memorize your lines.
It felt like a proof of concept. I wanted someone to fund it, make this more like, we'll talk about this in a second, but with the gray area, it's also a story that's told, but there's visuals that add to it. And so we see like the monologue happening in real time. And I wanted that, or I just wanted something more than just this straight talk. And it just, again, because like this person was reading off a script. And so there wasn't room for like the feeling of a monologue of just kind of this.
Correct.
Growth. But it felt like a proof of concept. It was like here's this really cool thing. And I wish there was a producer. I wish someone saw this and was like, that's great. Let me give you a couple $100 and
maybe that's what'll happen. Maybe that'll happen, for the next season. I don't know. I wrote that it should have been a TikTok. And this is coming from someone that's not even on TikTok and loathes when my friends send me, because I'm a millennial. No, I'm on the millennial socials. Facebook and Instagram and sometimes Twitter. That's it.
Me too. Okay, it's all I can
TikTok's
handle.
Fun.
But I don't dance. I don't dance.
It's not about dancing. It's just funny.
We could have a whole episode about TikToks and the generational divide. But let's end on the gray area, I had Keegan on my show too. Y'all, Keegan is doing so fucking much for this world in having this conversation of the gray area. And in my attack on the binary, I'm only experiencing the divine and I'm only experiencing beauty in the space between. And this film speaks to that. It's an allowance of POV. It's an allowance of expression. There were 5 people all identifying as she, her, and some presented as masculine, some presented as feminine, some presented as non-binary. Androgynous. Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. I used the, thank you for reminding me to use that word, androgynous. I'm going to have to write that one down. This notebook is filled with like,
I love that though. I love that you're trying to learn. Like that's
God, I am.
That's Jesus. That's so important.
Oh yeah, Gewalt. But yeah, I after watching the gray area, it's what 35 minutes, I think.
It's a pretty long.
Yeah, but those 5, and then Susan, who I call the matriarch of the group, we follow each other on Facebook and Instagram now. She's my new BFF. She had a line, and this really like resonated with me as someone who wants to leave a legacy. She talked about how when she was, in the midst of Stonewall, when she was in the midst of gay liberation, she was doing what she thought was the work, and she thought that she was going to leave the later generations with an easier way of life. And she kept saying, I just thought it was going to be better for you. And I was just crying to see the pressure she put on herself as an older gay person of being regretful with feeling like they had not done enough. And I was like, I just want, and I even on the episode with Keegan, I was like, I just want to hug you, Susan. I want you to hug me back.
It was great that they went, that they had the age differences in there, because that really needed to be represented, the antiquated thought process and how, the pressure that she put on herself trying to make their lives better. And in some ways they are, pre-Stonewall was a little rougher than what's going on now. And Stonewall and after Stonewall, and I'm not downplaying how difficult it is still now, but she did make huge strides, and she was part of a very important movement. And it saddened me that she thought that she didn't do enough.
I know.
And all of them validated her work and how she did. Yeah. And I thought that was great. I love the religious aspect of it as well. Me being the atheist, I loved how they addressed that. very sensitively, but also very thoroughly, and without remorse.
Yep.
And I just thought that, there's just such a bravery there. And I love how it was shot. They're interviewed straight on, talking right to the camera oftentimes, because there's that whole breaking of the fourth wall.
Yep.
When you shoot like that, and it challenges the audience to look you in the eye and look at you as a person. When there are those moments of okay, look, here I am, here's what I stand for, and you're going to take me as is, or you're not. And I don't give a fuck how, what you decide, because you do you, and I'm going to do me. So I just thought all of those things really came together well.
And they also had great flashback narratives that were shot really well. And they were shot from, you could never see the top of the face of the people that were the antagonists in the flashback narratives. And it was, I thought it was done purposely to kind of show how people who are, how often do we keep our heads lifted enough to see someone if we're being marginalized, if we're being put down? I just thought it was really clever cinematography as well. And here's some fun. I don't know if y'all know this yet, but do you remember the scene where Keegan is in does the graduation robe?
Yes.
And it's shot from behind. And I thought that was just a young actress they cast to play that role. That is a young boy.
Ooh.
Who that Keegan says that they are dealing with some they are trying to decide if they are non-gendered or non-binary. But I thought it was really interesting casting, because it kind of speaks to the same thing of like, it's not our business. It just was such like a trick on the audience, I think, to accept this as a female, but it's actually a young boy who looks feminine. And the film is talking about females who might look masculine. And so just that allowance of the gray space. And it was just another reminder of like, it's none of your business, son.
I think it's just such an important conversation. Like, yes. I hate to keep beating a dead horse, but I'm trans, if that hasn't been mentioned yet.
Right.
And, like, so one of the biggest things that like is hard is gender nonconformity, especially with being trans. You go out and you see all these celebrities, especially white celebrities, but they'll like put on a dress, like guys will put on a dress, and they are applauded, and they're like, you ended transphobia, you ended the gender binary. So true. I love Harry Styles. I think it's great that he wears dresses. However, and then with anyone else though, especially if you're trans or in any way, you try to break the gender nonconform, a little bit, you are so heavily penalized and criticized. Like, trans guys are expected to be only masculine and to only present masculinely. And if you try to deviate from that at all, it's seen as like a shame on your trans, especially with trans women, especially like trans butch lesbians. They are so persecuted for that, because it's like, and so I think it's such an important conversation, even though it was a bunch of cis people, because a lot of it is normalization. And they talk about how like it's an issue that doesn't only affect trans people. Like a lot of cis women especially are criticized and quote unquote clocked as being trans, when they actually are just cis women who just happen to look non-conventionally feminine, whether that be by gender presentation and style, or just that's just how they look. And so it goes back with like how this is a guy apparently, but he looks really feminine, but we just accepted it because it's none of our business. Just let people pee, I swear.
Yeah. Did you say let people be? Or
people pee. Let people go piss.
Oh,
doesn't matter.
That's even better. Just let people pee.
Let people pee. I promise you.
Kat, if you put that on a t-shirt, I'll buy it.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not kidding.
Me too.
I feel like that's a bumper sticker. Like, that's like the HB2 thing. Is like,
right.
Just let me go pee. I promise you. Like, it does not matter. It's also the same thing with like when people are like, my child is trans, they're dead. I'm not dead. I just have a mustache now. Like, that's about it.
Yeah. What are your closings? What do you want to say to either young filmmakers, to the filmmakers that we critiqued? What's important for you to send off with right now, Meg?
One of the things they asked me this question about, what piece of advice do you give to other filmmakers? And it's one piece of advice that I was given. You never turn off the camera.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
You never, and that's one of the things that I did several times. I had to, speaking of peeing, when I was filming the Thanksgiving scene in Proper Pronouns, I put the camera down because I had to pee so bad. And but I left the audio on because Dawn was still mic'd up. And although the audio, so I've gotten great sound bites because I didn't turn off the camera. Now, if somebody asks me to turn off the camera and I feel this is very important, you turn off that camera.
Right.
And it may be you still run the audio, but you have to have their permission to do that, but you turn off that camera if you're asked. That's just me, because ethically I can't do that. You don't earn the trust of someone and then disrespect their wishes.
Yeah.
But I kept the camera on, and one of the scenes there's actually 2 clips from the Thanksgiving scene, and I just literally put the camera on the table and went pee. And then there's another scene in Proper Pronouns where I had tripped getting off of the subway in Philly, and I had handed the camera to one of the sound guys that had come with me, and I had to tie my shoe, and I said, can you hold this for me? And I had set it down to give it to him because he had so much shit in his hands that he couldn't just take it from me. He had to put shit down too. So one of those clips. So, I could give all this philosophical shit and, unfortunately I don't have time, but one of the best pieces of advice is, unless somebody asks you to turn off that camera, you don't turn off that camera, and you start that camera before they realize that you have turned on the camera. Now, granted, they're going to see the red light, but not everybody does.
Right.
They won't notice it for a few seconds.
Correct.
True. Yeah. That's hilarious. I'll never turn the camera off. Kat, what's your send off?
Keep making LGBT films. Keep making films that are about people that don't get a voice. Keep casting people. Keep hiring people. Like, as someone who's of the younger generation, a lot of these stories are just stuff that's just not told to us, whether that be maliciously or just because it's been lost to time, as it were. But just keep making stuff. We want to see it. I want to see it. There is going to be some gay kid out there who sees your film or show or whatever and finally feels like it's okay to be themselves. And that's, isn't that at the end of the day, isn't that all we want?
Yep. And it's even, people sometimes question, I think, like, that's the smaller community. Like, the majority is not, of that mindset. But I'm like, if we can save one fucking kid from suicide or one fucking kid from shame and trauma, we got to do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And keep being weird. Be whatever weird sparkle gender you are if it makes you happy, and tell everyone else to fuck off.
And just let people pee.
Just let people pee.
That's my favorite thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
I feel like that's going to be my bio. Credited.
Yes, absolutely. You'll get a shout out for sure. Thank you all so much for doing this with me. It's just been a blast. I adore your voices so much. And I look forward to critiquing some more films in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for letting us come here and speak.
My pleasure. All right. We'll see y'all later. All right. Thank you.
All right, Meg. Guys. Bye.
Bye.
Good to see
Best
you.
To you.
All right. See ya.
If you or someone you know is struggling with mental health or suicidal thoughts, there are resources and trained professionals available 24/7. It's okay to not be okay. Please call 800-273-TALK, 800-273-8255, or by going to suicidepreventionlifeline.org. For youth and young adults under 25, the Trevor Project is available 24/7 at 866-488-7386 and at thetrevorproject.org. And all the people said, gay men. Thank you all for listening to another episode of the Fagnostic Podcast, hosted by me, Matt Hayes. You can find me at matthayes.com. That's MATHAYES.com, or on Just the Millennial socials at Hayes on It. HAYES on it. Please go subscribe, review, and share this podcast. And in the meantime, peace be with all y'all.
Hi, Michael Spicer here. Matt Hayes forgot to put my name in the credits of his podcast as the composer, but I'm here to tell you that I wrote the music for his podcast. Whatever it's called, I don't know.